The man leading us to even greater heights, Jim Szczesniak.
Good morning and welcome. It's great to be here with such a fine group of Houstonians in this strong and vibrant city. I'm originally from Chicago, so that makes me a long-suffering Chicago Bears fan. So I'm excited to let you know that I now root for the division-leading Houston Texans, which is great because now I can have two favorite teams, the Texans and whoever's playing the Cowboys. So, since moving with my family to Houston from Alaska, I've embraced the heat, the phrase of y'all. I've swapped out my fishing boots for my cowboy boots. And of course, I love some Tex-Mex and some mariachis. During my time in Alaska, when I was busy running when I was not busy running the Anchorage International Airport, I starred in a reality TV show, and I was an adjunct professor in global logistics. That was a great side gig, and I recommend it. Because on the rare occasion when my wonderful wife Sonia would tell me that I was wrong, I could simply retort that I was right because I was a learned professor. So with that being said, class is in session. I want to make sure all can learn something before you leave today. So these last 10 months as aviation director have flown by. We've been busy and we've been successful. This brand new data from Thanksgiving confirms it. We are improving traffic at Bush Airport. The chart on the top is the Thanksgiving last year. All of those peaks above the red line indicate all the days we were in really bad traffic. The graph at the bottom is Thanksgiving of this year. We only saw significant challenges on the Sunday after the holiday when everybody was either coming or going. That Sunday was our single busiest day ever, and this Thanksgiving set a new record. We welcomed nearly 2.3 million passengers, Thank you. 6% more than we saw last year. Yet, even with all those crowds, we reduced heavy traffic by 80% and severe traffic by 55%. In February, Mayor Whitmer challenged us to fix the traffic, so we changed strategy. We hired more airport employees to direct curb traffic. We implemented active loading zones for our curbs and worked even closer with our Houston police. We are also completing the necessary capacity projects and opening new lanes and curbs. I would really like to thank our construction management team, landside agents, and police officers who made this possible. We are improving. Another round of success happened this summer. July alone was a whopper. We set a record for new daily passenger traffic. We welcomed soccer fans for the Copa America, and we restored airport operations within 4 hours of Hurricane Beryl moving out of the city. We also kept flights going despite a global IT outage. Yep, that all happened in July. In the midst of so much delight and devastation, I'm also witnessed the dedication of our 1,300 Houston Airport employees. They're really incredible. Despite overwhelming challenges, our team continues to get the job done, and they get it done right. We are more than just runways and terminals. We are the heartbeat of the city. We are a good neighbor. Bush, Hobby, and Ellington, and now the Houston Spaceport are crucial to the region's overall success. We are connected to every facet of a thriving Houston economy. Whether it's the energy sector, tourism, technology, or the Texas Medical Center, our airports are an economic engine for the region's prosperity. We are the first or last impression of our great city. Houston being home to the world's best art program helps. Hobby being the only 5-star airport in North America doesn't hurt either. Bush is among the top 10 best airport dining experiences in the world. This October, we'll welcome the Annie and the Kitchen to Bush, or those restaurants will join local favorites like Hugo's, the Breakfast Club, Cadillac Bar, and Landry's Seafood. Next year, we're going to raise the bar again with Simone Biles joining our lineup. Passengers will dine like an Olympic gold medalist at Taste of Gold in Terminal A. We are committed to delivering excellence that sets us apart from our competition. When Houston placed bids for the 2026 World Cup and the 2026 World Baseball Classic, rest assured that our airports were in the game. We helped bring those opportunities home for all of us. We are connecting Houston to more of the world. Today, we proudly support 29 airlines that connect our corner of Texas with 195 destinations around the world. The investments we're making in our facilities are crucial to continued growth. One of my mantras is our customers can literally fly away, and it's because they can, it's our job to wow them with a world-class experience. About 85% of the international passengers at Bush are connecting through. That means they have choices where they connect, and we want that choice to be Houston. Earlier this year, we teamed up with United Airlines on nonstop routes to Georgetown, Guyana. The country, which has experienced an oil boom, now has direct connections to the world, the energy capital of the world. Just 2 weeks ago, United launched nonstop flights between Medellin, Colombia, and Houston. Our airports are the premier gateway to Latin America. We offer more destinations to Central America than any other U.S. city. We are responding to growth demand for more destinations. In March, Zip Air will begin nonstop service to Tokyo, Japan. Zip Air is Houston's first long-haul, low-cost airline to Asia. The mayor says this addition reflects our city's prominence on the global stage, and I couldn't agree more. In May, United will offer direct flights between Houston and Edmonton, Canada. Next summer, Southwest will restart nonstop flights between Hobby and Seattle. Allegiant Airlines will begin flying between Houston Hobby and Gulf Shores, Alabama. We want to go even further, and we're building bigger and better terminals to support Houston's starring role on this global stage. Today, nearly $5 billion worth of construction projects are underway at Bush and Hobby airports. We are overhauling our concessions experience, we are modernizing our restrooms, and we are adding amenities to make real differences to the passengers we serve. Our airports are growing, and with growth comes pain. Building a new international terminal at Bush while maintaining operations has taught us some valuable lessons. Some of those lessons have been hard. If your family had a less than ideal experience at Bush because of our construction, I'm sorry. We are committed to doing better as we move forward, and we are moving forward. We saw that forward momentum during Thanksgiving, and we saw that in October when we opened the new Terminal D West Pier. 6 new gates now accommodate more wide-body aircraft. We are now working to add even more flights. Together with the business community and our tourism partners, we are working to fill gaps in Southern and Northern Europe and Southeast Asia. Houston Airports is truly living up to its mission to connect the people, businesses, cultures, and economies of the world to Houston. Passengers love and appreciate the upgrades throughout the expanded terminals. We are commissioning Houston-based artists to create custom masterpieces that highlight our city's eclectic personality, an architectural ceiling that mimics the Houston sun as it peeks through the oak trees. Later this month, the bane of our existence, that temporary international arrivals curb, will finally close. That's right. In less than 2 weeks, we're going to open 6 new lanes for international arrivals. That will improve the customer experience, improve traffic flow, and will unclog the airport exit. Next year, it gets even better. To show you what's on the horizon, this is what the roads look like the past spring break. And this is what they're going to look like next spring break. We are opening 8 lanes on the lower level of the new international terminal and 11 lanes on the upper level. The additional airport employees we hired this year will continue to work with Houston Police and other law enforcement officers to keep the traffic moving. Traffic is improving and parking is getting better. If you reserve your parking online, our new cashless system will get you in and out of the parking lots in a jiffy. The technology reads your license plate, and when you enter and exit, getting you in and out quickly. This new system is fully installed at Hobby and will be fully installed at Bush by the summer. Reserving online parking does 3 things. It guarantees you get a good spot, it saves you time, and it saves you money. Our online reservations are discounted from the driver rate. This summer, customers saved nearly $1 million by reserving their parking online. All of these improvements are more than just physical changes. They are promises to our passengers that their experience matters. Yes, construction has earned us a bit of a reputation. Bush is a four-letter word, but we don't want it to be that four-letter word. I assure you that we are rewriting the narrative. Next year, the new International Central Processor will open in 2 phases. This is where we'll bring ticketing and baggage and security for the new international terminal. Early next year, United passengers flying out of Terminal E will be able to check into the new processor. This will alleviate the congestion in Terminal C. By late summer, foreign flag carriers will move their new operations to the terminal. TSA will open one of the largest security checkpoints in America. 17 lanes with the latest technology will screen passengers without the need to remove laptops or liquids from bags. The state-of-the-art Oculus will display high-resolution images of Houston. This technology is similar to the Sphere in Las Vegas. This international terminal will be the envy of the art museums from around the world. Dale Chihuly, the world's most famous glass artist, created a custom sculpture that features 537 hand-blown glass pieces inspired by the flowers of Houston. Chihuly's largest airport commission is right here in Houston. So United Airlines is transforming Terminal B, one of the oldest terminals at Bush. The new terminal will be a $2.5 billion crown jewel when it opens in the fall of 2026. It will feature more gates, a new ticketing hall, and United's largest club. Over at Hobby, Southwest Airlines is expanding the West Concourse by 7 gates. I am personally really excited about the transformation of the dark and dingy baggage claim at Hobby. So we're going to open up that baggage hall by adding skylights that will bring in loads of natural light. A new baggage handling system will be installed that will actually alert passengers where their baggage are going to be. No more guessing where your bags are going to come out. So that project will be done in 2027. Until then, passengers can enjoy some of the best local food options Houston has to offer. We're turning Hobby Airport into a foodie's paradise. By summer of 2026, the Rustic, Velvet Taco, Killen's Barbecue, Spindle Tap Brewery, and Common Bond will be open inside the best regional airport in North America. And Killen's, by the way, is now featured in the Michelin Guide. Earlier this year, the mayor asked us to rededicate ourselves to providing a user-friendly experience, and we are doing the work. I am proud to share our restrooms are now in the middle of a $30 million makeover. The floor to, yeah, you can clap for that. The floor-to-ceiling renovations include smart restroom accessories inside Hobby and throughout the terminals A and D at Bush. We are doing the work in phases to minimize the inconvenience to passengers. United shares our commitment and is working to update restrooms across terminals C and E. We are growing, and we are growing sustainably. We are voluntarily participating in the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program to reduce emissions at our airport. This year, we achieved Level 2, which confirms we are reducing emissions. From 2019 to 2022, we reduced emissions at Bush by 16% and emissions at Hobby by 22%. We did that by making smart investments in energy efficiency projects, LED lighting, and a new central utility plant at Hobby. We are upgrading the central utility plant at Bush, which was built in 1965. Houston Airports is working with Airbus, Chevron, and the Center for Houston's Future to explore the possibility of making Bush a hydrogen hub. This feasibility study aims to develop a stepped approach to decarbonizing airport and airline operations using hydrogen. Innovation is necessary for improvement, and we are innovating. Houston designed a unique passenger journey scorecard. Our terminal management team and IT division developed this app about a year ago for internal use. I gotta tell you, I think it's pretty cool. I'm the #1 user. I check this app about 24 times a day. They track me. So let me give you a little tour how this improves our passenger journey. First, an airport employee must choose which airport they want to monitor. They can then swipe up onto 12 different data points, which are updated in near real time, from traffic to TSA wait times to even temperature in the terminal. Each data point gives us a score. This scorecard supports our tactical decisions while boosting employee morale because the data is displayed in near real time. Employees can track the impact of their hustle and hard work. As far as I know, we are the only airport system measuring passenger journey to this level of detail. So when I told you that we're learning our lessons, I meant it. Okay, so I'm going to use the restrooms as an example. So we manage the restrooms at 2 of the 5 terminals at IAH. United Airlines is responsible for the other 3. So we invite passengers to rate the restroom experience. They select the smiley face or the sad face on the iPad near the entrance to the airport restroom. This is how we collect the data. Last Thanksgiving, 83% of the passengers were satisfied with their restroom experience at Bush Airport. We've made some improvements since then. We've updated a women's restroom in Terminal A, and we've opened new restrooms in Terminal D. This Thanksgiving, 92% of passengers were satisfied with the restrooms at Bush. Hobby Airport, which held a 92% rating last Thanksgiving, jumped to 95 satisfaction this year. So I want to give a kudos to our 270 custodial staff who clean the airports after the 2.3 million travelers this Thanksgiving. Our passenger journey scorecard measures passenger sentiment and passenger volume in real time, and that data helps us leverage our resources like toilet paper. In the last year, our passengers used more than 230,000 rolls of toilet paper. So, yeah. What gets measured gets managed. You know, and our in-house passenger journey scorecard puts Houston ahead of the curve. This app not only a selling point to airlines and federal partners because it illustrates how we manage our business and how we can help improve theirs. As the aviation department for the city of Houston, I am proud that we are innovating ways to improve the passenger experience. We are public servants after all, and under the leadership of Mayor Whitmire, we are determined to make our facilities even more Houston friendly. Earlier this year, Houston Airports achieved Level 1 in the ACI Customer Experience Accreditation Program. Additionally, we opened new sensory rooms, implemented our Sunflower Lanyard program, and added an evolution room and installed adult changing facilities at Bush. Our priority is to make passengers happy, and we do that by working together. We are a team. So, if you are a Houston Airports employee, an airline employee, an architect, engineer, contractor, a city employee, or an elected official, please stand. So, I want to say thank you because you and your colleagues are the reason for our success. We appreciate your hard work and dedication to our passengers and community. Let's give us all a round of applause because it really takes us all to move this on. All right, so now it's time to move over to the blackboard. So one of the things I want to talk about, as the airport person is what are we doing from a passenger perspective? And so as Steve mentioned earlier, we passed our pre-pandemic levels last year, and we're really exceeding it this year. We're looking at about 63.3 million passengers through our airport system in this calendar year. And that's an important record for us because of the fact that it shows that we're, again, growing the airport to help meet Houston's needs. And we can also tell from the data that we are doing a good job with our route network because of the fact that 83% of Houstonians have the ability through our network to be able to go nonstop to their destination of choice, and 99% of them can go to within one stop when they fly domestically. Internationally, about 61% of the passengers can go to their destination of choice nonstop, with about 96% being able to do that in a one-stop configuration. So that's, again, as we try and attract businesses to our community, the great thing about a global world is we can get global here, and then we can also get good domestic here. We just recently completed our new economic impact statement for the airport system, and so we've got some great news from that. So the economic impact annually of the airport system is about $40.6 billion. And so if we look at a breakdown on that, Bush is responsible for about $30 billion of that. But Hobby it's literally a little over a square mile, but it's producing about $8 billion in annual economic activity. And Ellington, our third jewel over there, is about $2 billion. And what we have to remember from this is that, again, we're getting the $40 billion of economic activity, the 200,000 jobs, the $13 billion in labor income that's being poured directly into this community, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers of Houston a cent. The Houston airport system is solely funded by the airport user fees that we charge, and then some federal grants that we get off of the ticket taxes that you pay. So that's a pretty good investment for what we get in return. Again, as we also look at the things that we bring into the community, we really like to partner with the visitor community and tourism community because of the fact that we're bringing in $5.3 billion of direct spending into this economy with the folks that come into our airports and then come to Houston to be able to enjoy things. If we think about the volumes there, it's about 16 million visitors per year coming in using our airports. Again, we're extending our reach. You know, if we think about the port of Galveston, they've got about 2 million cruise passengers that go through that port every year. That port is growing. And again, we see cruise passengers all the time in the terminals because of the fact that we are directly connected to that. And then again, for the elected officials in the audience right now, we also want to make sure that we point out the fact that we're also producing about $2.4 billion in state and local taxes. Another thing that we want to highlight, again, we want you to learn something today, is I think it's a really important part of the airport, but I don't think that it gets the attention that it needs, and that's the air cargo. And so we're doing about $13.8 billion annually in air cargo activity there, and it's got responsible for about 57,000 jobs. So that's a pretty significant impact just locally on the amount of cargo that we're doing here. But we also, again, are moving the goods that are coming and being produced in Houston. And so if we look at Houston, we did, again, almost 500, or a little more than 500,000 metric tons of cargo moved through our airports, but the value of the cargo that is on there is about $17 billion. And so that's important as we look at the economy of Houston because of the fact that we're trying to do high-value work here, and that high-value work tends to fly on airplanes when we can do it. If we look at what we're actually producing in the Houston region and how it's using the airport, most of it's industrial machinery. That's our #1 export. And so again, a lot of that's based on the oil and gas industry. A lot of the pieces and parts of that are basically produced in Houston and then flown throughout the globe. We've got some aircraft parts, medical equipment, consumer goods, and perishables. And again, where are we sending some of this stuff? United Kingdom, Germany, Saudi Arabia, United Emirates, and China. Obviously, again, the oil and gas components are a really big part of that. The United Kingdom, I was looking at the data the other day, and one of the things that jumped out to me is we actually send traffic control systems to London, so I guess they must have trouble over there with traffic. So, and we're helping fix that here in Houston. Another tidbit that we thought was interesting for folks to understand too is we are the second in the U.S. in the amount of exports to Africa. About 9,000 metric tons. And again, that is oil and gas equipment, and then also medical, because of the fact that we've got a lot of medical that comes in here. And if we think about the Houston economy and the airport's important to it, we actually are running about $500 million worth of pharmaceuticals through the airport every year. And so the Houston airport system is, again, bringing all that in there for the Houston medical community. And then also, we also are part of the medical tourism. So there's a lot of medical tourism here that happens in Houston. If we've got some of our Middle Eastern airlines that come in here, when they show up, they're asking for sometimes 60 wheelchairs when they're getting off those planes. And so that's, again, a lot of the folks are coming from Middle East over here to get taken care of. And so we're really excited about the growth that they're projecting at the Houston Medical Center because of the fact that they're building their brand new biomedical manufacturing facility. And so as that part of the Houston economy is looking to grow, we have to keep up at the airport to make sure that we can grow with that. And so we're doing a couple things. So we're going to be looking to expand cargo facilities there, but then we're also pursuing certification through the International Air Transportation Association, where we would have our certification to be able to handle pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceuticals are a little temperature sensitive, and so they've got various ways that we need to handle them. And so we're going to make sure that we go through and work with our ground handling partners and our warehousing folks to be able to make sure that we're certified to handle those goods so that we can help support the growth in the medical community here in Houston. And then another nugget we thought we'd want to share with you is Ellington and what's happening down there. And one of the unknown kind of things is really the military activity down there. So I didn't know this until the other day, that we actually have all the branches of the military that are actually at Ellington doing some operations there, with the exception of the Space Force. We're working on that right now. But it is one of those things that you've got 1,400 employees that are there on a kind of full-time basis, and when the reserves come in, it gets a little more busy over there. And so if we look at Ellington itself, we talked again about the $2 billion that it does for itself, with about 1.6 of that being the military. But now we're actually, adding to the Houston Spaceport. You've got about 1,800 folks that are working in that spaceport. We've got the legacy NASA operation that you've got there. So again, these airports, if you think about them holistically, everybody thinks Bush does a lot, but it does. But you think about the impact that Ellington and Hobby have on the region too, and they are significant. And so I'm going to give you a little video over here where we've got the Houston Spaceport, just to kind of explain what's going on over there. So we've got a number of great tenants there, right? We've got Collins Aerospace, we've got Intuitive Machines, and then we've got Axiom there that are really doing the space piece. And then we've also got Venus Aerospace that is there, and Venus Aerospace is working on hypersonics. And this is a great cluster of activity that we've got here. That, which you see on the screen right now, is we have things that were literally built at the Houston Spaceport that are on the moon today. And there's a couple things, and I think in a couple weeks we're going to be sending more things from the Houston Spaceport to the moon again. So it is really a great testament to the fact that in less than 10 years since the spaceport was created, we are really advancing what's going on in the space technology world. So we're very proud of our space technology that we're building here. We're, again, working to build a new taxiway there that's going to connect the airport to the spaceport so that we have the ability to move space products around globally, because that is an important thing to understand, that the space industry is global, and we now have the facility here. And we've got unique facilities like the Flame Range here, so where you can test these rocket engines over here on these that we're going to have that are powering these spacecraft. And again, we've got other things that have got fancy shake tables. Venus has their test facility over there, so there's a lot of unique materials there, a lot of unique testing facilities. It's a really cutting-edge location. And so I want to kind of transition over right now so we can talk about the future of what we're going to kind of do here from a Houston perspective in space. And so what I figure I'd do is I'll bring up Jack Two-Fish Fisher here. He's a former fighter pilot, he's a test pilot, he's an astronaut, and he's also a spacewalker. So I think about when I go out in the ocean, or if I'm out in the deep sea and dumping in that the water makes me a little nervous. He actually was outside of the International Space Station floating around. So that's kind of a cool thing. I mean, like that's that's pretty one of the coolest things I think I could imagine. And so he's also now a bigwig and VP over at Intuitive Machines. So Jack, come on up, and we're going to have a little discussion right now.
Well, let's give spacewalk's cool, but in Houston, astronauts are a dime a dozen. There aren't too many people running the best airport system in the world. So why don't we give another round of applause for Jim and an incredible state of the airports. And I don't know if you guys heard this, but he's from Chicago, and he said, "All y'all." So how about instead of just clapping, we give him a yeehaw and don't bring it weak. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeehaw! All right. Well, so with that, Houston Airport is putting space back in Space City. What does that mean in practical terms for Houston and the future in aerospace?
So one of the key things that we look at is obviously, we're trying to build the airport system to be able to do economic development, because that's really good for us. So if you look at the World Economic Forum, they're projecting that the space economy is going to be over $1 trillion by 2035. And so what we're trying to do is attract companies here to be able to locate, to be able to build that space economy in the future. So we are technically a spaceport, and we do have a license to launch space planes. But we have the space plane one, not the rocket one. So don't worry if you live in the Ellington area, you're not going to hear rockets going off there. But the space plane thing is not mature quite yet. And so we found a really good niche here, being able to do the manufacturing focus. And so we're really proud of that, and that's where we're kind of focusing right now.
Well, fantastic, and you're doing a great job. I know our company wouldn't be able to exist as it is without the spaceport. So the spaceport, it is a part of this growing ecosystem of innovation here in Houston. What makes it and its location uniquely positioned to lead the change in aerospace?
Yeah, so I think first thing is we've got great neighbors, right, which is NASA. So having NASA there is a really great benefit to us. And then we have great tenants right now. Because again, we talked about having Intuitive Machines and Axiom and Collins and Venus. And so if we think about that cluster that is there right now, they're doing really cutting edge work. And it allows us to be able to cooperate and collaborate with folks. So you've got the NASA base over there. And then again, we've got this good cluster of facilities there where people can share equipment, you can collaborate on projects, because again, when we think about space, it's very difficult and it's very new and cutting edge on what the things that we're doing over there. So being able to have a community where it's just not an isolated, we have one space company. You know, if we think about what GHP told us early, there was 500 space and aerospace companies that are in this region. And so having that cluster right there really helps kind of inspire everybody to kind of achieve, because they can all work off each other.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm a big Houston cheerleader, trying to get folks, especially in the space industry, to come to space. And I love the way that you categorize why we're the best. So you got the 3 L's. You got location, labor, and lifestyle.
Yeah.
So can you explain to me why that makes Houston the go-to city for aerospace, and what it really means to those companies that are considering this amazing town to call home?
Yeah, I mean, the old adage in real estate, right, is location, location, location. And that doesn't work necessarily for what we're trying to do. It's location, livability, and labor. And that's because of the fact that we compete against other spaceports. And we've got other spaceports that are in godforsaken places on the planet.
Amen.
And it doesn't, so we've got the first truly urban spaceport. And when we think about that, you have the ability to go to work, and then when you're done over there, you can go to the opera, you can go to the Texans game, you can go to Michelin-starred restaurants, all those modern amenities that folks want. And then your spouses and your kids have access to good schools, good neighborhoods, all those things that are important for folks. And so when you're trying to attract the labor talent, which is kind of a very difficult resource to attract, this is a really powerful incentive to come locate in Houston, because of the fact that you have all that here and you're not in an airstream in the desert somewhere.
Yeah, that's a little close to home, man. I moved 18 times, and the Air Force has a bad habit of putting Air Force bases in high mountain deserts, read middle of nowhere, so we don't get to go to Michelin-star restaurants. All right, so how about partnerships? So the spaceport is obviously a game changer, but it's one of many parts that make this ecosystem so vibrant. I think of almost a triad. You have the Ion downtown here that is really a crucible of innovation. You have the newly minted, and I'm sure a lot of you were at the groundbreaking for the Texas Space Institute, Exploration Park right outside the gates of Johnson Space Center. And then, of course, the spaceport, which I think is the place to be, especially for production of space companies. So as you think of all of those and encompassed by the newly formed Texas Space Commission, what does the future look like with these partnerships, and how does that build a solid foundation for the future of aerospace?
Yeah, so I think it helps because of the fact that you've got multiple pieces that we're putting together. So if we look at, again, the ION and the new Space Institute that they're going to have down there, that's the cutting edge research that needs to be done. That's the innovation that's coming forward. If we look at the Houston Spaceport, that's the actual where we actually put the metal under the test to be able to shape it into what we need to do. So having those pieces, and then obviously we've got the labor component over here with the training that we get out of the universities. So again, it's a good mix of things, because again, a lot of the spaceports that we compete with, they have one thing and they have maybe one thing only. And so what we're trying to do is, again, have this nice, robust economy that we've got here from a space perspective to be able to make sure that when, again, putting the space back in Space City.
Absolutely. And you have a lot of people coming. Elon and SpaceX have planted their flag here in Texas. And there's a lot of companies that are considering, just attracted by everything that you just mentioned. What is the spaceport doing to attract even more companies? And then what can local businesses like we have in the audience today do to help further that so that we can grow even more?
So, I mean, I do have to say that we have tremendous partnerships that we work with, the Greater Houston Partnership and BayHep. So they are fantastic cheerleaders and getting connections for what we need to be able to bring businesses into this community. I think from the local business community, one of the things that I think is, if we think about the over $1 trillion space economy, I think, maybe a little bit of an effort. I'm kind of thinking about from a finance perspective. You've got Silicon Valley and the finance that went in to build Silicon Valley. And if we can figure out some way, because we've got this base space infrastructure, to figure out how we can get some good finance here to be able to finance a lot of the space industry, maybe we can be the place not only that has the space, but also learns how to finance the space. And that'd be a good, I think, an added piece to our puzzle here.
You bet. And you mentioned BayHep. I don't know if Brian Friedman is here or Stephanie. Any of the TARSEC or TSC other than me here? Nobody. All right. Well, Texas Space Commission. It's a big deal. You should read about it, guys. Come on. You're killing me. Texas Space Commission, Chairman Bonin out of Friendswood is chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. He stood up and wrote legislation in House Bill 3447 to establish a commission to basically give us a strategic direction for the state in space, put $350 million against that. And they are running fast. Brian and I are proud members of that TARSEC committee as well. What role do you see the TSC playing in the future of Houston and the larger Texas aerospace economy?
So I think they've got like so definitely we're from an airport perspective and a spaceport perspective, we're interested in the ability to use some of that financing to be able to do infrastructure projects. To be able to, put the infrastructure in that's necessary to be able to support growth at the spaceport. I think you're going to see a portion of it that's going to be sent out for research within the universities. So that's a good folks to be, keeping that space ecosystem here and keeping it vibrant by being able to make sure that we're on the cutting edge. And then I think you're probably going to have, some of that money be used to attract businesses to move to Texas to be able to do additional space stuff. So again, we think about all the companies in space that right now are legacy California-based businesses, but they may, Texas is a much better business environment for them. If we think about globally the space industry, trying to bring in some of those countries that might want to do space here from demographic issues or political issues. So I think, one of the great assets about having the spaceport and also having the airport is the fact that we can really communicate to the business community that we can connect them. So if I look at Japanese space companies or Taiwanese space companies or European space companies or the Australians or New Zealand space companies, I've got nonstop flights to all those places. So you have the ability to continue doing your space there, but if you need to do stuff in the United States, yes, that gives you a great opportunity to come in here and locate in Houston because it's easy for you to get back and forth. Absolutely.
So I know when I was growing up, I lamented the fact that I was in this generation and didn't get to grow up in Apollo, what I thought was the greatest space generation. That's no longer the case. The momentum in space around the world is incredible. There's so much momentum, and you talked about all the momentum of Houston as we grow in this exciting time. What excites you the most, and what's next?
So I think the thing that's most exciting to me is that I think in Texas right now, we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. So we've got great support from the city, we've got support from the county, from the state. We've got Representative Bonin that's really helping us, and then we've got Representative Babin who's helping us on the federal side. So you have all that. You've got, again, Texas Space Commission now with the governor's office support and the ability to put some money into it. I think having that, basically collective rowing the boat in the same direction is really exciting because we can get a lot more accomplished if we're all working together.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're doing great in DC. If you aren't tracking that, Babin is being hopefully named the chairman of the Space Science and Technology Committee in the House as the chairman, and Senator Cruz as the chairman of the Commerce, Science, and Technology. So 1-2 punch for Texas. Come at me, bro. Time for Texas to play.
So I'll ask you a question then, since you brought it up. So, I mean, what do you think the policy in space is going to be with the new administration as that takes over?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I just got home at midnight, flying through Bush, because we're going to be spending a lot of time in D.C. There is, as I mentioned, a lot of momentum in space. We have a lot of really big players that are engaged. Normally, you'll see a NASA administrator announced somewhere about 8 months into an administration. So that's because it's pretty far down the list of important. Yesterday, we had an administrator nominated in Jared Isaacman, billionaire entrepreneur who just so happened to also do spacewalks. His was a little tougher, I think, because he was floating outside on a cord. Mine, I got to, hold on, and it was a little nicer. Brave businessman who loves space and is ready to rock and roll with an administration that understands you have not only NASA, civil space, but you have military space, you have commercial space, and if you can fuse all three of those, you can really make some magic. So excited to see that happen.
Okay.
Coming forward. All right, so let's see. Now let's kind of shift gears a bit. What does Houston, what are you doing to align with this big wave of aerospace and how are you going to build upon that for what's next?
Yeah, so first thing we want to do is help our existing tenants expand their facilities to make sure that we can keep up with their growth. Because again, they've collectively, they've got about $10 billion worth of contracts, for their, operations. So, how we helping them with their growth. But then again, we're looking to see if we can figure out how we support you, the tenants over there, with opening facilities that are going to help you with the smaller suppliers that you've got. So we're looking right now at a multi-tenant facility at the spaceport, because although the big tenants there are in 150,000 square foot facilities, we've got some demand for smaller companies that want to support you that may be in the 10 or 20,000 square foot facility range. And so being able to help ourselves get that community growing by having some of the big fish, but then also having some little fish in there to help everybody in the pond.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to be coming at you here soon as we grow with our strategic partner, Burns & McDonnell, to grow our facility about a 50% increase in our footprint there at the spaceport. We wouldn't be able to do that without the great support that we've gotten from the Houston airport system. So you've obviously, you're a leader now in aerospace, but aviation, obviously, one of the best airports in the world. Do you see these two industries merging, and what would that look like in the future of the Houston airport system?
So I think we've got a great example of that right now, and that's Venus Aerospace that's at the spaceport. So they're actually working on hypersonic aircraft, and so that's their goal. Their tagline is basically home by dinner. And so what they're pitching right now is the ability to go from Houston to London in about an hour. And so, yeah, 6 times the speed of sound. I can't go from Ellington to Kingwood in an hour. So, that's what they told me. They told me that, like, right, we can go to London in an hour. It's like, I can't get to Kingwood in an hour from Ellington. So that's kind of amazing that we've got that. But I think that's where you're going to get that. Again, if we go through the spaceport and we see what's going on there with the additive manufacturing that they're doing, all those kind of things that can be done, and then again, parlaying again the cargo opportunity that we've got here. So we have the ability to do more aerospace manufacturing in Houston, and then we have the ability to distribute it throughout the world. And then again, we do have a great port here too. So if you don't need it quite so quick, you have the ability to put it on a ship too. So again, we've got a lot of benefits in here in Houston to be able to really grow this aerospace industry, because we've got, again, this legacy space, we've got the new modern space, and then we have the ability to parlay that a million different ways.
Absolutely. And I don't know if Sassy and Andrew Duggleby are here, but if you hear a bunch of noise and you live in the Ellington area, it's probably Venus, not I am, making the noise. Just saying. Or the F-16s. Could be the F-16s. Don't blame us. All right, so Ellington Airport is quickly becoming a hub for eVTOLs. And electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft is kind of a new wave of aviation. How do you see that technology transforming connectivity in Houston?
So I think what you'll see is that the old Continental turboprop flight that used to go from Ellington to Bush, that'll come back as an eVTOL. So we're preparing for that right now, where we would have, again, the ability to take off from Ellington and be able to fly up to Bush. I think you're going to see very similar from a concept perspective that at the Sugarland Airport coming into Bush. And so some of those places are going to be definitely transiting there. I think after that kind of airport to airport connectivity gets done, we'll probably see that moving into the city, where you'll see, maybe going down into the convention center area, NRG Park, some of those big facilities, to be able to get into that eVTOL transit there. So it is one of those things that it's right now it's going to be a growth market. We've got, again, a lot of venture capital in it. United is here today. They're partnering with Archer on their eVTOLs. So again, very interested to see how that takes off. We've had some eVTOL folks come into us and told us they're going to come. There'll be a lot of them here, and so we're preparing for that. But again, we're working with the FAA. So we've submitted some concepts of where we could operate them at Bush, and the FAA is actually going to take them to their technical center in New Jersey and simulate them. So we'll have fake controllers and a fake tower that are working these within the operations of Bush, because our concept for these eVTOLs is do no harm. Because of the fact that we do have a very busy airport, and we want to make sure that we keep it there without interfering with the existing operations. So we have to strategically figure out where we're going to locate our facilities at Bush, and then obviously at Ellington, we've got some pavement out there to play with. But again, it'll be interesting to see when these things come to fruition, how the adoption is, and then again, the frequency that they can be, kind of using. Because again, the joke about Houston, right? Houston's only about an hour from Houston. So if you think about the traffic here, those eVTOLs flying over and avoiding the traffic will be a wonderful thing.
Yeah, Houston's pretty big. And with the economic engine that is the Houston airport system, it continues to grow. So I have some crazy numbers. 140,000 residents annually are moving to our great city, with the FAA forecasting passenger travel totals to double by 2050. What is Houston Airport doing today to meet those future demands?
So we're completing our existing infrastructure right now. So we're getting international terminal. United's doing their expansion program. Southwest Airlines doing their expansion program. But at that point, we're also in the process right now of doing 2 master plans for both airports. So we'll have a master plan for Bush and a master plan for Hobby, so that we can figure out how we're going to be able to do that growth. Because again, if you think about traffic through the airport doubling by 2050, we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place prior to us getting to a critical point on that. We want to have it sooner rather than later, so that's timed properly. Again, so those master plans are underway right now, and we'll probably have a little more detail on those in about a year. Additionally, we're also doing a resiliency master plans for both of the airports. So we got some federal grants from the FAA to be able to do an analysis of both airports so that we can have them, so that infrastructure that we build is resilient, because obviously we've got hurricanes and challenges down here. So now not only we build facilities, but we also build facilities that are resilient, so that when we do have a challenge, we can just basically mitigate and go through that as quickly as we did. Again, I'm very proud of the staff, the way we handled Hurricane Beryl, getting back up 4 hours after that hurricane. But since this was my first hurricane, I've been told that was kind of a baby hurricane. So
I don't know, it's big enough.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we're definitely interested in making sure that we grow the future, because again, we've got to figure out how we, accommodate the growth from an airfield perspective, accommodate the growth in the terminals, accommodate the growth in the roadways. We've got these new eVTOLs. How do we accommodate them? So there's a lot of pieces of puzzle. Then you got these hypersonic planes that they are working on with Venus. You got Boom that's working on supersonic planes. And so there's all kinds of changes and challenges that we've got. And then again, if we think about the cargo infrastructure here and the amount of economic activity that generates, how do we capture more cargo activity here? So,
Man, a lot going on. Okay, so you've been the director now for almost a year. What was the most surprising or most memorable event over this past year?
So I think it would be my first hurricane. So I'm checking my natural disasters off the block. I've got earthquakes, I've got volcanoes, tornadoes, all kinds of them. So, but that was my first hurricane. And what really surprised me and really, was inspiring was the way that our team actually functioned during that event. Because of the fact that you had the eye wall of that storm basically went over both of our airports as far as Hobby and Bush. And we were able to get both airports up within 4 hours to accept aircraft. And the next day, Hobby was 100% back to normal and Bush was about 75%. And then the following day, Bush was back to 100%. And so just to be there in the storm and see the prep work that they did prior, during, and after, and the way they accomplished things was definitely one of those things that was really inspiring. I was like really impressed. So.
Well, don't let him tell you it was a baby hurricane. Give him a round of applause. That's badass. All right, so we're about to get kicked off the stage, or at least I am. I've heard about your NHL goalie dreams. So if you weren't running the Houston airport, what would you be doing today, Jim? I play hockey, love it, it's a great sport. I'm a goaltender, and so I did mention that to Tillman Fertitta a little while ago. And so I did mention that every NHL team needs to have an emergency backup goaltender in the arena, during a game in case one of the professional goalies gets hurt. And so I told them I would graciously volunteer my services for that. And about 2 weeks later, there was rumors in the newspaper that he was shopping for an NHL team. So I will take credit for that. Well done.
And if we get a team in Houston, I am ready to serve as the emergency backup goaltender and airport director. I can do both.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, he's responsible for a new hockey team, $40 billion of economic impact in the world's greatest airport. So how about that? Everybody, one last round of applause for Jim Szczesniak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.